Hey everybody, it's Matt Shu from Upright Health, and I'm here on a ridge up above Todos Santos in Baja, Mexico. I'm taking a little mountain bike ride, enjoying the desert, checking out the scenery, and just getting a little exercise. Today we're gonna go over some stretches if you are a bicyclist, whether you're a mountain biker or road cyclist, and want a couple of good ideas to help maintain your flexibility, maybe improve your flexibility, and also make sure your hips and your legs don't lock up after a couple months or years of constantly using the same muscles over and over and over again. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to look at is one that you can be doing before and also especially after you've been bike riding. So we're going to be stretching out the quads and the hip flexors. This is super key if you're a biker because your massive quads start getting super stiff, super tight, and that is going to affect your hip pain levels, hip comfort levels, and also power production. So to do this, all you need is some sort of pad, some sort of soft surface like I've got here. You're just going to put it up against the wall. You're going to put your knee down, and I'm going to start it today with my knee really close to the wall, and I'm just going to put my foot up on the wall like so. If you feel like your ankle's a little weak or something, or it's a little unstable, you can go ahead and tuck it like that, but otherwise we can just go right up here, kind of get the shin up against the wall. And you don't even have to have this foot here like this. If you want, you can just have it down. So if your quads are super stiff, your hip flexors are super stiff, you can just start here, fire your butt cheek, try to feel the stretch down the front of your thigh. Now, as you get better at this, you're going to start trying to come up towards the wall. Again, keeping the sensation in the thigh and in the hip flexors here. So you're looking for sensation all on the front here. Okay, if you feel like your low back is going into a big arch, then you're doing it wrong. You want to keep that flat, keep the glute here squeezed, and keep trying to bring yourself up, 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 keeping the sensation in the right spot. One thing that's gonna happen as you're going into this is as you're coming up, your body may try to shoot the hips over to the side, shoot the pelvis over to the side, which is going to change the stretch. So as you're coming up, try to keep your pelvis in the same plane, in the same position that you started in. So if you see it like this, when I come up, my pelvis might want to move my whole body away from you, right? So I want to keep that under control and make sure that it's a choice that I'm making about the positioning and not just my body trying to cheat. That said, we can also work on this stretch. I can come in here, I got my foot up on the wall, and then again you can see what's happening with the pelvis, right? I want to try to keep that pelvis in a nice locked in position so it's not cheating. Here it would be really helpful if I had like a stick or something to help me up. Basically, I'm just trying to come up, 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 up like that, right? Angles I mentioned, we can turn the foot. So I've got the foot kind of behind me here, and then I'm driving the pelvis down towards the floor like so. That's totally okay. It's going to work on the TFL. It's going to work on some of the anterior fibers of glute medius, which can also get super jacked up from a lot of biking and pedaling. And we can also change the angle that way. So now I'm into internal rotation. This is a stretch that I love doing. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. So if you're a biker, quads are crazy tight, hip flexors get real short and stiff, this is a real good one for you. I would suggest spending at least 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes if you're a biker doing this after you have finished a ride, and probably more than that. For me, what I like to do is if I don't do it right after, then at least the next day I'll spend at least 5 minutes total on each leg, just to try to keep the quads and the hip flexors from getting too short, because mine will definitely stiffen up after I go for a mountain bike ride. It's beautiful out here. The next stretch we're going to work on is a glute stretch. So this one requires just something to sit on. You could sit on the ground, you could sit on a pad, you could sit on a box, whatever. Basically, you just want to be able to put one leg down on the floor, and you're gonna try to bring the other leg across, just hooking the ankle. And here we're gonna start playing around. So you can kind of sit up tall. Think about bringing the knee across your body. So it's like you're bringing it towards the opposite shoulder. And you don't have to go super aggressive, and you may find you're stuck down here. That's fine. You may find that you are here and that it's hard to go this way. That's fine. What we're gonna do is basically start trying to teach this thigh bone to be able to move through a bunch of range of motion. And as we're doing this, I'm trying to keep the butt more down. So as I'm pulling my leg across, for example, the butt is not getting dragged up and over, right? I'm trying to get the femur to move independent of the pelvis. So I'm just pulling, feeling the stretch deep into the glute. When you're biking and you're pulling up like this all the time, and then you've got the downstroke while you're pedaling, you're using your glutes a ton. Hopefully you're using your glutes a ton. So when the glutes get super stiff, they will lock up hip joint range of motion. If they lock up hip joint range of motion, they will lock up your ability to adduct. So you won't be able to pull the knee across, which will affect how you're pedaling. So when you're pedaling, you're going up and you want to maintain the shin perpendicular to the floor. So it's parallel to the position of your bike, right? So a lot of times when people are pedaling, as the glutes get stiffer and tighter over time, they start noticing on the upstroke that leg starts to turn out. They feel like they can't keep their knees in close to the top tube. So this is something that we're working on in keeping the ability to adduct, keeping the ability to pull that femur in. That's going to help you with your stroke up and down, keeping it in the right path. This, again, definitely hold it for at least 90 seconds. I'd say at least 2 minutes, really, if you want to get some good stuff. Focus on getting like a good moderate sensation in there. And if it feels like it just wants to stay really stiff and tight on you, then one thing you can do is start working on some contractions. So I'm just creating something with my arms here that my glutes can fire against. So my glutes fire, the knee tries to push into my hands and wrists and arms, and then I relax it. I want to try to get the glutes kind of tired and used to firing in this adducted position. So one thing that I find real helpful sometimes is just fire it, keep firing it until I can really feel the muscles there get tired. Firing, and there I'm starting to feel them like really obviously working in this lengthened position. Now they're getting tired. All right, and then I'll relax that and try to stretch it a little further. One thing that we've found with clients with really stubbornly tight muscles, people who have been told they have arthritis or whatever it is, one thing we found is that the muscles, when they feel like they're really tight all the time, a lot of times they feel tight because they are incompetent and weak at lengthened positions or even in shortened positions. So in this case, your glutes might be super strong at getting that downstroke and creating hip extension and that power so you can pedal, but that doesn't mean they're going to be strong in a position where the muscle fibers are lengthened. So here we're trying to teach them to function when they're lengthened so that they get stronger and more functional and they feel more comfortable. They get more flexible as well. Quick break. I almost just ran over one of the biggest pieces of poop I've ever seen. And finally, we have an exercise to help you actively engage your hip internal rotators. It can be really useful, again, for that upstroke in keeping the shin parallel to the bike and perpendicular to the ground. So what we're gonna do is just sit on the floor. I've got a little cushion under me that can be helpful for you as well. Maybe if you are out biking somewhere, you can just ball up a jersey or a bag or your camelback or whatever, put it under you. And then what you're gonna do is just put this knee down, keep it down, and then you're gonna think about lifting the back foot. That's gonna fire up these muscles. I'm gonna show you from the side. I'm here, I'm trying to fire these muscles, the knee stays on the ground, and this foot comes up off of the floor. You can hold this again, making sure that I feel the right muscles firing, and then I can slowly bring it back down, and then do it again. Why is this going to be helpful? Well, because we're using the hip internal rotators, which need to be functional and strong when you start lifting up. So when you're pedaling and you're going into the upstroke, if the hip internal rotators are not strong, you're going to go whoop out like that. If the glutes are too tight, yes, it will also pull. So we're trying to get the glutes to relax and trying to get the hip internal rotators to do their jobs, right? So going into hip internal rotation, that's probably going to be the easier position to do it in when it's kind of out and kind of behind where I am. For you, for us, since we like to ride bicycles, we can also work on bringing the femur then more into adduction, right? Relative to the pelvis is pointing this way. Now I bring the leg in. This is starting to look a lot like our biking position, right? And then we can boop, lift that foot up, hold it, and get this fired. Now, you'll notice I'm leaning over. It's because in order to do this while keeping my butt down and straight up, I have to have amazingly good hip internal rotation, like pro level ice hockey goalie hip internal rotation. I'm not a pro level ice hockey goalie. I don't have it yet. I'm working on it. So I need to lean over a little bit. Probably a lot of you bikers out there are gonna need to lean over, and that's fine. If you need to be over here, that's fine. Just think about trying to replicate the upstroke when you're pedaling, right? You're trying to replicate what happens as you're coming up. So you can also even just use a hand here. So now I'm deep into hip flexion. So you can see it's basically like I'm going into a really deep hip flexion and then I'm internally rotating. So it's here. So it's like I'm really trying to replicate what happens when my knee is at its highest point when I'm pedaling. And then I'm working those hip internal rotators. If you have a yoga block at home or you have a little stool or chair you want to rest your knee on, that's totally fine. I'm just doing this super minimalist style. Another thing to play with is the knee bend. What I've found is the more I bend the knee, the harder it is here. For you, it might be different. You can play with it. You can also play with the knee extended more and go for internal rotation, see how that feels. All of those can be really, really useful for kicking in the hip internal rotators and getting your body used to being in that position when you are pedaling, getting that leg in that perpendicular to the ground position without any of that deviation. That internal rotation exercise you can do basically till you're sick of it, but a good place to start is 3 sets of around 5 to 10, doing those long slow holds so that you're feeling fatigue. Those aren't magic numbers. If you can only do 3 slowly, that's fine, and just do those 3 sets. So it's only 9 repetitions, which is not bad, and just keep working that on a regular basis. So at least 4 times a week, but every day may be a really good idea to start restoring that range of motion and restoring that control. Those muscles may also get stiff and tight, in which case you want to be working on getting them to open up, like I showed you in that quad hip flexor stretch, and play with the angles to get that stuff to really open up for your biking. Now, when is the best time to do all these exercises? I would say that it's a really good idea to do them before and also after, but I realize that that's, for a lot of people, not realistic. You're just sort of not going to do that. I know sometimes I don't do that. Many times I don't do that, but you need to use these tools to help you maintain your body. So if you're in a place where you're already really, really stiff and you already have range of motion issues, you really should be making the time to do these stretches before and after. If you find that doing them keeps you feeling pretty good and functional and you don't really have that much of a mobility issue already, then you may get away with only doing it after or only doing it before. I personally make sure that I do stuff to maintain my hip mobility on a regular basis throughout the week, so I will fudge a bit. But if you don't already have that as a general practice for yourself, then you need to start setting aside that time either before or after your rides, or sometime in the mornings or in the evenings during your week, so that you can start building up hip mobility and maintaining the resilience you need to do your long rides. To recap on how long to hold stretches, make sure that you are holding for at least 90 seconds, if not 2 minutes. You don't have to be in an intense, crazy amount of stretch, but you do need to be feeling change happen, and you need to be working to make sure that change is happening. You don't want to be just kind of hanging out and not feeling like there's any angle changes, not feeling like muscles are adapting. You want your muscles to have clear sensation. You want to make sure that you're feeling that sensation. You don't want to be numbing your mind by watching the TV or whatever. You want to be paying attention to the sensations and feeling for muscle fibers opening up as you're doing the stretches. So each leg, each side, right, you want to be doing at least that 90 seconds, if not 2 minutes, taking the time to really get there. You can use the contractions that we talked about in the glute exercise. You can do those longer, you can do those shorter. Experiment a little bit to get familiar with your body. And I would really suggest that you do at least 2 sets on each side. So you've got that 90 seconds, and then 90 seconds, and then 90 seconds, and then 90 seconds. And if you have the time, make more time and do it for, just set a timer for 10 minutes and just work on that hip mobility in all these different positions and stretches. For the internal rotation stuff, again, work to fatigue, make sure those muscles get tired. Don't get it too sore so that you're hurting all the time. Work it like 4 days a week to start, see how that goes. If you can do more so that those muscles get stronger so you are able to take your long rides. All right, so now you guys got a couple stretches, some exercises that you can do to help your body stay feeling good, feeling fresh. Don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, all that stuff. Check the description box for links and all that other good stuff. And remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't.